Hi, hello. Let's continue our discussion. And today's continued topic is types of resources from the chapter Resources and Development. Before that, let me clarify. Human beings themselves or human beings are mainly themselves are essential components of resources because they plays a very important role in transforming materials available in environment into valuable resources and use them in their regular requirements or needs. Then all the resources which we find in our surroundings or in our nature are categorized into various types, and all the materials and all the resources which we find in our nature are mainly categorized into various types. Let's discuss one by one. First, on the basis of their origin. So, on the basis of origin, resources are categorized into two types, namely biotic and abiotic. So, first type of resources on the basis of origin, resources are categorized into two types, biotic and abiotic. First one, biotic. The resources which are mainly having life, they are biotic. For example, ourself, that is man, wildlife, wildlife, bird, reptiles, lizards, and all the creatures which are having life. They are biotic resources. Then abiotic. Abiotic resources are the resources which do not have their life, which do not have life. They are abiotic resources. Example, rock, soil, etc. So, on the basis of origin, resources are categorized into biotic resources and abiotic resources. Biotic resources are mainly the resources which are having life. Example, man, wildlife, birds, trees, plants, reptiles, lizards, and etc. Whereas abiotic resources are resources which do not or which are not having life. Example, rock, soil, etc. Then, second one, on the basis of exhaustibility. On the basis of exhaustibility, resources are categorized into two types, namely renewable and non-renewable. Second category or second type of resources on the basis of exhaustibility, resources are categorized into two types, namely renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Exhaustibility means whether the resources remain their quantity constantly or whether the resources goes on decreasing after repeated use of resources, that is exhaustibility. So first one, renewable resources are the resources which are mainly going to survive or which will be available even after continued utilization. They goes on renewing, reforming, or recycling. They are renewable. For example, water, water, air, water, air, then solar light, then forest, wildlife, and wind, etc. So when we use water, for various purpose, the amount of water will never decrease. It goes on recycling. Even air, solar energy or solar light, wind, wildlife, forest resources, so they goes on recycling, reforming. So such resources are called as renewable. Non-renewable resources, so non-renewable resources are resources which are formed in a nature, uh, and which occur in a nature after very long geological time, means they takes lengthy time, longer duration to form in a nature. And even after regular utilization or usage of resources, these kind of resources, one fine day they do not exist, or they goes on depleting, or they goes on decreasing their quantity in a nature, or their availability may goes on exist in a nature. For example, fossil fuels. Fossil fuels like coal, petroleum and others, even minerals. So fossil fuels, then minerals, and other categories of fossil fuels like coal, petroleum and others. So regular utilization of these resources, one fine day their quantity or their availability may goes on decreasing. These kind of resources will not renew, or they takes lengthy time, longer duration for reforming or recycling. They are identified as non-renewable resources. Then third category of the resources, on the basis of ownership. On the basis of ownership. Ownership means where the resources belongs to. So on the basis of ownership, the resources are categorized into four types, namely individual, then community, then national, then fourth one international. So on the basis of ownership means the resources belongs to. So the resources are categorized into four types, namely individual resources, community resources, national resources, and international resources. Individual resources are the resources which are responsible, which belongs to one particular person or one particular family. They are identified as individual resources. For example, it is my pen. It is my pen. Hence, this is my resource. And wherever it is going to be observed by others or found by others, they are going to be called as this is my pen. Similarly, the pens which are there with you, they are identified as your resource. Similarly, the resources are the things, or the materials, or the land which is owned by your parents or your family members. It is your family resource or your parents resource. Hence your parents or your father is only the owner of that particular resource, hence they are called as individual resource. Then second one, community resource. So these are the resources which are accessible, accessible or available. The resources which are available are accessible only to the particular community, to the particular community. These kind of resources are identified as community resources. For example, park, then public well, then public well hospital, then the land where it is reserved for grazing grazing land, then the land which is used for uh, storing water in the form of pond, well, tank, etc. So the park available in your area or in your village, it is not meant for yourself, it is meant for all the people who are there in your respective villages. Then the well, the the grazing land, the water tank, and all the other these kind of resources, they are meant for all the community people, hence they are called as community resources. Then national resources. National resources. So national resources are mainly belongs to one particular country, one particular country. Hence the country itself is having legal powers, legal powers to acquire, legal powers to acquire, and also legal powers to uh, maintain and hold control over private property for public good or public welfare. These are mainly given importance in order to encourage the economic activity as well as the development of nation and even the development of individuals too. So these resources are identified or called as national resources. For example, the roads, then forest, then water resource, then wildlife, wildlife. So these roads, forest resource, then water resource, wildlife, so these are mainly stressed to uh, acquire control within the territory or boundary of one particular country. Hence they are meant for the utilization in order to accelerate or develop the economic development of the nation. Hence they are identified as national resources. For example, as I told, roads, forest resource, water resource, wildlife resource. One example I will give you. One dams. So dams are going to be constructed, so to the particular river. So dams are constructed with many purposes, many purposes. It may be for agricultural purpose, it may be for supplying water for drinking purpose, industrial purpose, and fishing, generating electricity, and all. So when the water resource is being provided for all these purpose, hence to the other areas or to the other sectors, it encourages for the development. So these kind of resources are called as national resources. And at last, international resources are the resources which are mainly regulated between or among the few countries or few nations. So these resources are mainly observed in oceanic boundaries at 200 nautical miles from exclusive economic zone belonging to the particular nation in an open ocean. So there no individual country can utilize themselves these resources without the uh, uh, concurrence or acceptance of international institutions which are mainly established for international trade and commerce. So these are mainly quoted or identified as international resources. So continuing the other types of resources, let's meet in tomorrow's session. Thank you. Have a nice day.